Joining us now with stories trending around the world is VimbaiMutinhiri. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Welcome back to our 40-year-old Ayo. We saw you as a 39-year-old. Now we're seeing you as a milestone. Life begins at 40. Roofy fire.
Bless you.
How are you? Has anybody else noticed how Dr. Abati is wearing ashwoke bow ties now?
I know where it came
It's
from.
not the first time.
Yes.
I saw it this morning. I had to comment that very, very nice.
I know where it came
Thank
from.
you.
Very nice.
Dr. Abati, I don't like wearing my own, so I will not wear.
Anyway, we're going to give him his moment. So many stories trending around the world today. I mean, gosh, social media was blowing up over the weekend. But let's begin with a story that really got people talking. We begin with the New York Times that published an investigation claiming that the United States used intelligence from a screwdriver trader and small NGO operator in Onitsha, Anambra State, to carry out the Christmas Day airstrikes in Sokoto. The article, titled "The Screwdriver Salesman Behind Trump's Strikes in Nigeria," details how Emeka Umeagbalasi says he has documented 125,000 Christian deaths in Nigeria since 2009, but he also told the New York Times, allegedly, that he often does not verify his data. He acknowledged that his research was mainly based on, and I quote, secondary sources, including Christian interest groups, Nigerian news reports, and Google searches. The New York Times further claims, and I quote, that Mr. Umeagbalasi is the unlikely source of research, and this is a direct quote, research that U.S. Republican lawmakers have used to promote the idea that Christians are being singled out for slaughter in Africa's most populous nation. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, Representative Riley Moore of Virginia, Representative Chris Smith of New Jersey have all cited his work. He said he has degrees in security studies and peace and conflict resolution from the National Open University of Nigeria and described himself as a very powerful and knowledgeable investigator, comparing himself with the veteran CNN journalist Christian Amanpour. All of this is taken from the article, Not My Opinion. Let's take a look at some reactions. Senator Shehu Sani wrote on Twitter, "It's unfortunate and tragic to read the New York Times report that the claim of Christian genocide was sourced from one Emeka, an Onitsha-based screwdriver trader and operator of a small NGO who falsely claimed to have documented 125,000 Christian deaths using Google searches. How such an unverified claim could tense up the U.S. lawmakers, president, and the intelligence community that led to an airstrike is one of the most foolish and comical historical events in our lifetime. This is shameful." Well, Sir Inyang also tweeted, and he writes, "Oh, but the media has been reporting community mass killings, killings in churches, bandits activities, terrorist activities, herdsmen activities, kidnappings, etc. I think Nigerians mainly want the killings and terrorism to stop, period." So, of course, you know, those are some of the thoughts. Of course, amid many wide-ranging thoughts, some people going as far as saying, see, this is how the $9 million is working. There are now think pieces coming up here and there. But let me start with you, Rufai. You know, a lot of conversation around this. Because the man is a salesman of screwdrivers and other appliances or other, tools in Onitsha, does that discredit his ability to do investigative research?
I mean, see, I think it's a hit job by New York Times, and it is sad that media is doing this in the world. And for New York Times to say that it was solely this man's opinion that made the call for Christian genocide rife in the country is falsehood. They say people quoted him, people like Ted Cruz and the likes quoted him and all of that. Yes, they might have quoted him, but to say it's solely his report that tipped the balance is false. So let me give you empirical facts. Bishop Winifred Aniegbe, Catholic Bishop of the Makati Diocese, on the 12th of March 2025, testified before the House of Foreign Subcommittee on Africa on religious persecution of Nigerians, describing attacks on Christians and displacement and church destruction, all right, and an Islamic agenda to control land. In November 2025, they returned to testify at another House subcommittee on that matter. Reverend Remigus Ihula, Catholic Bishop of Makurdi, March 12, 2025, joined Bishop Aniegbe in the testimony before the House. Mushpa Ape, survivor of the June 2025 Yewata attack, also virtually testified, Benue testified between the House Foreign Subcommittee on Africa, which she emotionally recounted watching her 5 children slaughtered.
Yes. Several people have
So
testified.
there have been several accounts. So for New York Times to hitch it on this story and say the screwdriver salesman was the one that wrote this, is sort of like a hit job to me. And it even makes mockery of the American intelligence system. You get, if they say it's based on this. But I disagree with you, New York Times, as regards this case. And I've given empirical facts. And if there's more, yes, there's another guy called, I think, Francis Tor. He too has been a regular person that testified. In fact, he's worked with many U.S. lawmakers, In fact, he used to hold a position in Benue State. There have been many, and I can cite many other sources.
And just quickly, of course, when we talk about the $9 million, we know it's $4.5 million deal that has been done for a 6-month period. People are touting it as $9 million because it has that extra 6-month potential. Yes, but that's the deal that people are referring to when they see articles such as this. Dr. Abati, your take on this?
Okay, no, with regard to the contract with DCI Group to prove that there is there's no Christian genocide in Nigeria. Yes, people said, well, maybe those lobbies are already working. That's why you are seeing this kind of story in the New York Times. However, I think for Mr. Ume Agbalasi, I think that's the name, to claim that, it was what you found on Google and also on social media. You see the damage that their social media will cause. Is what the Americans acted upon. I think that in its first place is presumptuous because the American intelligence system, they don't have only one source. There are multiple sources, and those sources will be evaluated, and then there will be investigation. So to say it's one screwdriver salesman who is now screwing down Nigeria, I think Nigeria should not allow itself to be screwed down in that manner. Now, against what has been reported by the New York Times, before now, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Nigeria, Yusuf Tuga, made it very clear that, look, it was the Nigerian government that provided intelligence to the American government, and that it was a collaborative effort, a point that was, again, backed up by the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu. So how on earth did all that get reduced to the fact that it's one screwdriver man screwing things up and down that is responsible for the action? The other danger here is that it could cause problems between the North and the South.
Yeah.
Because now you say, let's put it where it is, Emeka Umeagbase, an Igbo man in Onitsha.
That's intentional.
So he's the one who has invited the United States to come and bomb people in Sokoto. That in itself is divisive. It's not the kind of narrative that should be promoted because of the implications. My third point is that the National Security Advisor, the DSS, the DMI, or the various agencies, whichever can move first, should invite that screwdriver man in Onitsha for questioning. So if he's so knowledgeable, he says he has a certificate in security studies, okay, maybe he knows other things that he can use to assist the Nigerian government. Because if indeed he's the one who communicated, that's an act of espionage against his own country, which could be interpreted as treasonable felony if he has information. The same Nigerian government that has been saying, to make Nigeria secure is a collaborative effort and that citizens have a role to play. His first port of call should be the Nigerian government to say, this is what I know. So these are dimensions to it. But, in this age of, vain publicity, anybody can just go and grant interview to foreign journalists, parachute journalists, and say, I was the one that brought him. In fact, they should seize that his laptop and investigate what is inside.
Okay. All right. Well, that was a report by Ruth McLean and with support from Taiwo Aina.
Social media.
Very, very briefly.
Can I just say, Dr. Abati, I think we're putting too much, a lot of emphasis on the man. How about the publication that actually took his story and gave it credence?
That flew a journalist to the South.
Yes, exactly. I think that's the main, because anyone can make a claim. But the role of a journalist, so the role of a media house, is to investigate that claim and ensure that there is some some it's verifiable. And so for them to take that story from this young man, it means that they've done their own background check, or they're just amplifying a story that has far-reaching consequences without doing due diligence. And unfortunately, that speaks very badly.
Well, let's hope this is not another Janet Cook story. What? You know the story of Janet Cook?
Yes.
So, are you saying, are we dealing with a Janet Cook situation?
Yes.
Let's
That's all I can say.
Yeah,
I don't want to throw down New York
deeper
Times
into it, but there are questions, more questions than answered, provided by that report from the New York Times. I'm sure we haven't heard the last from this. Now let's move on to issues around security. After more than 2 months in captivity, the wife and daughter of the slain Anglican cleric, Venerable Edwin Achi, have regained freedom. Sarah Achi and her daughter are currently receiving medical care at the 44 Army Reference Hospital in Kaduna. Kaduna State Governor Ubasani has visited the family and assured them of sustained psychosocial and welfare support, including decent accommodation from the state government, as he expressed his condolences over the death of Venerable Achi, who died while in the custody of the abductors. Venerable Edwin Achi, his wife Sarah, and their daughter were abducted on October 28, 2025 from their residence in Nisi Village, Chikun local government area of Kaduna State. The wife and daughter were released after spending 78 days in captivity, but the cleric did not survive the ordeal. Reiterating his administration's security posture, the governor stressed that the Kaduna peace model does not involve negotiating with bandits and maintained that criminal elements would continue to be confronted. Of course, he did so during the hospital visit. I'm going to tie this together with our next story, which took place in Kano State. We go straight to Kano State because of time, where 3 suspects, including a nephew to the family, have been arrested for the brutal murder of 35-year-old mother Fatima Abubakar and her 6 children at Dorai Charanchi quarters in Kano Metropolis, Kano State. The attack occurred barely 2 months after unidentified assailants invaded a residence in the Tudunyola area of the Kano Metropolis in November last year. They killed 2 housewives. So those arrested include Umar Awalu, 23, of Sabuwar Gandu, Isyaku Yakubu, popularly known as Chebe, 40, of Sagagi, and Yakubu Abdulaziz, also known as Wawo, 21, of Sabongida Sharada. Police investigations revealed that the alleged mastermind of the killings is Umar, and he's a relative of the deceased, and he confessed to committing the crimes. He also reportedly admitted to being involved in other crimes in other parts of Kano State. Now, this heinous crime has led to the resurfacing of a video documenting the occasion, which was reported here on What's Trending last year as well, when the Kano State government deployed its first batch of 380 anti-phone snatching marshals to fight phone theft in the state. So remember that time Governor Abba Yusuf had approved the initiative, sending recruits into training at the Kano State Corporate Security Institute for skills like identification and community policing. And people are saying, let's take a look at the tweets. The tweets are saying, if you have to create a whole force just to stop people from snatching phones, that says a lot about poverty in your region. Perhaps the money you want to spend on those should be used to open factories. So to come to you, Ayo, you have this abduction of Venerable Edwin Achi and his family. We thank God for the safe return of his widow and daughter. Unfortunately, he didn't make it. May his soul rest in peace. Kano, heinous murder of an entire family. But we're promoting anti-theft, anti-phone theft marshals. Your take on this?
Right, thank you so much. I will keep it brief because of my voice. Yes. But first of all, I want to say kudos to the federal government in collaboration with the Kaduna State Governor. The governor has said the right things, made the right gestures by condoling with the widow, and I hope that furthermore the Nigerian state can look after their mental health and also look after their full rehabilitation following what must have been a horrendous experience in the kidnappers' den. They were in for over a month, I believe, and they also had, the unfortunate experience of seeing their, their father, their husband die in that captivity. So this is great. But what's most important, as we often say, is prevention. We don't want to just say governors receiving captors, people who have been in captivity. We want to also see efforts to prevent these activities from happening. And the Tinubu administration has made some efforts or moves. Even the Minister of Defense, the security architecture have done significantly well to ensure that they're able to tackle kidnapping, banditry. Now, moving on to Kano State, and this is what we talk about the importance and the role that subnationals play. Oftentimes, when we talk about security, and very well so because security is, on the exclusive list, it belongs to the federal government, but there's some key things that state governors can do. And part of it is what you've identified. Sometimes they major on the minor. Look at what's happened in Kano State, for instance. There are certain factors that can be investigated, can be looked into straight from the community-led engagement to prevent incidents like this. There must have been, trends. There must have been, the fact that his history, his criminal history, his mental health state, those are some of the things that we need to look into. It's not a simple crime to kill, almost wipe out an entire family.
Your own family?
Yes, you have to check the mental state of such a man. And I'm hoping they can do that to see what they can do in the future to prevent that, rather than investing state funds in police theft, phone theft. I'll see what the progress of that is, by the way. I'll check that out in terms of to what extent that has helped security situation in Kano State. But I look forward to the investigation of that and to see how that can be prevented in the state.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully they're not focusing too much on phones and neglecting human life in the process. Let's turn to politics now, to Rivers State, as Governor Siminalayi Fubara, as has been widely reported on the program today already, described the impeachment notice issued to him by the Rivers State House of Assembly as a love letter. Now, you would recall the Assembly recently issued an impeachment notice to the governor and his deputy, Ngozi Odu, following alleged gross misconduct by the administration. Now, despite an interim order by the Rivers State High Court stopping the process, the Assembly on Friday said the state chief judge has received and acknowledged the impeachment notice. And this is what he had to say addressing his supporters during the grand finale of the week-long 2026 NPA Port Harcourt International Polo Tournament. Let's take a look.
It's really unfortunate that I have to say this. Coincidentally, each time you're having your tournament, there's always one problem. In the year 2024, you're having the tournament, you came to me and I made some promises. Almighty God, that January was here. 2025, in fact, you already know the drama we're facing. You didn't even bother to come near me, so I understand. This 2026, I thought you would have been the finest. They just landed me a love letter. So you understand. But that notwithstanding, we must move on.
You heard him. They just landed me a love letter. Now, this development comes as residents in Port Harcourt have also taken to social media to decry the unclean state of the city. If we can pull up those videos of how some of the streets are looking, there's videos of unclean streets, and they're urging the governor to prioritize governance, even as the political turmoil persists. I wish we had those videos that you could see some of the streets that have been documented, just looking deplorable, trash everywhere. But Rufai, I come to you. You had a guest earlier who is a lawyer, seems to come from River State as well. There was debate about, did he say he received a love letter or whatever? Anyway, he said they landed him a love letter.
They landed him a love letter doesn't mean I've received the service. So, because when his aide came here and said he has not received the service, he did not say, I have received the service. They are two different things. But hey, apart from receiving the service or not, you see, my bone of contention has always been, we know where this fight is coming from. So for those that now, and I'm going to argue this way, for those that justified President Tinubu's state of emergency as a way of solving the problem, it's obvious that the state of emergency was useless as we speak today. Because if the impeachment threats and the impeachment is still going ahead after the state of emergency that we thought was going to settle both factions, it was useless. For those on the government side that argue in favor of the state of emergency that President Tinubu used it to save Fubara, your argument is logically wrong today. Because despite the state of emergency, they are still going ahead with an impeachment against Fubara. And for me, like you said, the people are complaining that we don't see a lot of governance. The fight between Wike and Fubara, and two of them the same way. I mean, it's their fights. Don't die in their war. It's never about the people. If they were fighting about how they would clean the streets, the betterment of people in the state, I'll say that's a justified fight. But it's for their own control of resources and their own self-interest. I just pity the Rivers people in all of this.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, in the interest of time, we're going to move on straight to our milestone today as we celebrate the life and times of the Imam of Ingar village in Barkin-Ladi local government area of Plateau State, who famously shielded 262 Christians during a violent communal attack. He has died at the age of 90. The Imam of Ingar village in Barkin-Ladi local government area of Plateau State, who famously shielded 262 Christians during a violent communal attack, has died at the age of 90. Salih Abubakar, son of the deceased, confirmed the death to Arise News in Jos, and he said the cleric passed away on Thursday night at Plateau Specialist Hospital. He's survived by 19 children, made up of 12 boys and 7 girls. In June 2018, during faith-based clashes that swept through 10 villages in Barkin-Ladi local government area, the late Imam hid 262 Christians in a mosque and his private home until the violence subsided, preventing them from being killed. His actions earned him both local and international recognition across the globe. And we condole with his family and his loved ones. But of course, we know that at the age of 90, it's a celebration of life. And what a legacy to have left behind. 262 people and, of course, families.
You see, this explodes the idea that, look, Nigerian Muslims are bad, that, Muslims are always attacking Christians. Here is the example of a man who in 2018 rescued and protected 262 Christians who were being attacked in 10 communities in Barkin-Ladi local government area. Now, the issue, theoretically, has been discussed by Mahmoud Mamdani in his book, Bad Muslim, Good Muslim. Mahmoud Mamdani is the father of the present New York City mayor, Zora Mamdani. And his argument is that those you call the good Muslim, these are supposed to be secular, westernized Muslims as opposed to, bad Muslims who are, the fanatical, extremist Muslims. And that polarization does not exist. That people do that to play politics. People are human beings, first and foremost. They can either be kind or not kind, good or bad. But that people play politics with religion. And I hope in a sense, if I can rely on Mamdani's argument, that may be part of the situation, part of the problem we have in Nigeria.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That's all we've got.
The departed, rest in peace.
Absolutely. May his legacy live on and spread.
And I think his work.
Yes, he deserves it.
Well, you are clapping for his death?
For his life and times
and
his
legacy.
Okay.
Yes.
His legacy.
Great. That's all we've got. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, VimbaiMutinhiri. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.